we have 12 states which are present here today. Each state presented their position, the kind of challenges that they're facing and the kind of solutions that they've come out with. Standing there is Dr. Amit Chandra. He's a senior consultant with Central Square Foundation. He's also worked with Center for Civil Society, which is a think tank which deals with education. He's going to talk specifically about the policy recommendation and model for implementation of the NEP 2020. We have already discussed the regulatory architecture of school education. So Amit will be taking this forward. Amitji, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Kiranji. And hello to everyone. Namaskaram. The regulatory architecture in school education in the country. And specifically because we are here, the key objective is that in this inauguration session, we talked about why we have organized this symposium. So the key idea is the new national education policy is there, and there are scores of recommendations, hundreds of recommendations. But what are we particularly interested in is the chapter 8, and chapter 8 deals with the regulatory architecture. Now my first question to all of you, how many of you have read the National Education Policy 2020? Would you like to raise your hand? How many of you have read it? Okay, I can see a few hands. Great. Now let me ask very quickly, because I know majority of audience here is related with education. So you all are trustees, managers, leaders, principals and all of that. I want just 3 people to tell me in 30 seconds each, what is the day-to-day challenges that you face in case of managing your school? Anyone? I want 3 people in 30 seconds to tell me what is the day-to-day challenge that you face in managing your educational institution. Yes. Just quickly.
Yeah, Abraham from Kerala. See, we have many schools in Kerala running by CBSE and ICSE. Now we are facing great difficulty to run the schools in Kerala because of the policy of the government.
What is that?
The policy of the government is
What policy? What problem you face? Day to day.
the problem that we are facing is the government is giving, donating or rather giving marks to the Kerala board school students. And there is
I think question was not clear. What problem do you face?
that is the problem.
Day-to-day management of your school.
That is the problem. Thereby, the students are flowing away from CBSE schools and they are going to state schools. That is the main problem that we are facing at present.
Okay.
And also, the schools we have established about 40 years, 50 years, 25 years like that, we have established the schools. And the buildings are there, infrastructure is there, and
Sir,
all the
30
teachers
seconds,
are.
I'm sorry, 30 seconds I said.
Yeah, so these things are idling now at present, and we are finding it very difficult to run the schools in Kerala. That is the main problem.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Anyone else? Children to schools? Okay, one. Fee not paid to? They are not worried about education. Okay, wonderful. The one last one, 30 seconds.
So I've been in this industry relatively new. I'm only 10 years in this field so far. And the main challenge that I've seen over the recently, the day-to-day challenge is that there's a huge learning gap. And the children are not equipped enough to face that learning gap and how to overcome that particular thing. And
Perfect.
the challenge that I'm facing is how do I translate
check.
that to the parents that there is a learning gap and you need to focus on how to do it. That's the main challenge I'm facing.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Because I have only 10 minutes, I'm sorry, I really have to stick to the time. So the key idea was, my question was, what are the day-to-day challenges you face in managing your educational institution, right? And, and usually when we have this interaction, the most of the time immediately will come, enrollment is either going up or down, fee is not coming, we have, let's say, fire safety norms, some NOC to be procured, harassment from BO, DO, all of that. Right? They give you a lot of work which is not so much education or academic related, right? What my friend here started talking about, learning outcome. So all of these things are not related with learning outcome, right? And that is where I wanted to bring your attention. So in Karnataka, when we look at it, we can see there is roughly 40% currently students are going to government schools and roughly 46% are going to private schools, right? So we completely see in case of school enrollment, private schools have gone ahead of government schools now. But the next thing is, through this NSS survey also, parents say 72% parents say, why are they sending kids to private schools? Because they think there is some level of better quality of education available, right? But yet, we also know that in case of learning outcome, real measurement, India is getting into a learning crisis. Now, due to pandemic, it has certainly aggravated it, but even before pandemic, the learning outcome benchmarks, indicators have not been great. We all would have heard about possibly ASER report, which says roughly 60% sixth grade students cannot do basic language and maths of second grade, right? 60% cannot do basic numeracy and literacy of second grade. So such a bad indicator. And even if we look at this problem exists, this has gone beyond government and private. So if you take the data for Karnataka, 58% 5th grade students cannot do it. That is in government schools. But if you take it in private schools, the indicators are better, but it's not great. And the key concern has been of the policy makers, what do we do so that we move towards learning outcome? So from all of these different kinds of problems that you face, what do we do so that for everyone, the key mission has to be make sure there is learning outcome. And therefore, NEP has a remarkable shift in its regulatory approach. Now, all of these problems, day-to-day administrative problem that you face, there is, Shashi and others would have talked 100 times, that government has a different way to approach government schools and private schools, right? Why that happens? So NEP makers say that the inherent problem is conflict of interest. The service provider, school operator himself is the regulator, right? Department of School Education, which is running its own school, is also the judge, the regulator. And NEP makers say that this is a conflict of interest. And therefore, what they recommend that we should set up a new body for neutral regulation. And this new body should be called State School Standard Authority. All of these things are covered in chapter 8. You would have received a folder where chapter 8 is given to you, right? So there all of these things are mentioned. So what the chapter 8 talks about? Number 1, set up this new body called SSSA. Next thing, there should be a clear separation of functions among different educational bodies. At the moment, at times it's ambiguous. Who will do what? Where does the buck stop? So for an example, think about it. Today, a parent has to complain regarding whatever, or even a school has to make a complaint. Where would you complain? How would you complain? In how many days your problem will be solved? There is no clear path to it. So they say it has, therefore, separation of functions so that there is clear accountability. So now onwards, Department of School Education would only do policy making and monitoring. Directorate of School Education will only focus on running their own school. They should not get into business of private or other schools. SCRT will focus only in curricula development. And this new body SSSA will be the key regulator. And that too, they will create regulation which should be applicable to all, private, government, whatever, philanthropic, charity, minority, all. And our key finding is why there is poor learning outcome. That's number one, our regulations are focused on what we call input. So we try to document how many laws are there in Karnataka which regulates education space. And we found 17. There are 17 different acts. And these 17 different acts will also have their rules for implementation. And therefore, at times you will find GO or GRs issued. And then we know at times we go to court and court has also given stay on some of these provisions. So actually you don't really know if you are going to set up a new school, what rule or what process to follow. There is complexity, there is ambiguity, and that is what gives power or scope to different authorities to exploit, get into corrupt practices. And therefore, the recommendation is there should be few laws, but simple and clear. So NEP says light but tight regulations. Anyways, so this new body has to be set up, which in our opinion could be that potential game changer. Because all the problem, whether you have problem regarding recognition, affiliation, NOC, fire, safety, whatever, all of that, as long as the power is with the Department of School Education, who is biased in its action. And therefore, once we have the neutral regulator, this should be the key body to address all of your concerns. So, whatever order comes, some of the states, what they have started doing, the states meaning the schools and schools associations, they say we are willing to follow, but you are not the right authority to give this order. First create SSSA based on NEP recommendation and let that issue order and we will follow it. This also opens up an opportunity that now this has to be outside the government as the neutral, so keep the politicians and bureaucrats away. People, representative from private schools association as well as an important stakeholder could become members of this committee. So in that sense, it will promote self-regulation. And third important thing I want to talk about, that the entire shift is towards learning outcome. Now, how would we ensure there is learning outcome happening? For that is clear answer is that schools have to be accredited and students' learning outcome has to be assessed. And it's not that it's first time happening in the country. There are countries who have implemented similar kinds of recommendations and have brought remarkable achievement. So UK has a similar kind of model where there is a clear separation of function. Chile has done well, and when they started working on similar model, since then their learning outcome has improved. Brazil is doing better. So we do have some experience from other countries as well. Now the next thing I want to talk about is NEP is just a policy document. Thereafter, government came up with a new document as well, which many people may not have heard about. This document is called Sarthak. Sarthak is actually the implementation plan for NEP. It has a clearly identified what, number one, it converted all the recommendations into actionable tasks, has assigned a key department which will work on implementation, and then also has put a timeline. So, triple SA, for triple SA, the timeline is by end of 23, there should be a functional triple SA existing with its functional website and all. Now here is the thing for all of you to think about, and that is the state may not be as interested in doing it. Why would they not be interested? Because it's simple. The idea is that Department of School Education will have to take its power away, create a new body, give the power, who will start regulating them also. And therefore they may not be interested. And that is why this program is so important, that we make sure we are vigilant enough that number one, government does it in the right manner, and we are part of it. And in our ideal model, that it gives us an opportunity to review all the legislation so far. So we review the way education system has been designed so far. We can rethink as to how do we want to design the new education system, and on that basis create the entire regulatory framework. So that opportunity is with us. Now it depends completely upon us as to how do we capitalize upon it. And this is where the key idea, when I was discussing with Shashi, we thought of organizing this symposium. Our key statement was this: let's not make the same mistake what we did when RTE was being drafted. When RTE was being drafted and they started implementing, most of us were unaware and sleeping and enjoying. At least we should not repeat the same mistake. Now NEP is being implemented. We should be aware, vigilant, and make sure it gets done in the best manner as we think. And what could be that best possible manner? In your folder, we have created few documents and given to you. So how should this triple SA look like? Function, roles, responsibility. How would dispute resolution mechanism will work out? What could be done to those cases if there are pending cases like in High Court, right? What can we do? So all of those questions we have deliberated and created few documents which is there in your folder.